We're going to get started, because the first little bit is just a little, not too many. I put death and taxes because obviously that's tax collectors and all that good stuff. So here are just a picture of some variety of Roman coins from the first century. Depending on how they were made, and alloys and all that we put in them, the amount cost, but of course, all the dyes and everything, and a couple of Jewish coins.
Over at Lanier Seminary, or their library thing, they had that widow's mite. I was surprised how small that thing was. That was teeny tiny.
When I first went to Britain in '66, they had a farthing, and that thing, I put it in my pocket, could never find it again. I mean, it was so small. I mean, it was. I've never seen a coin. It's like one of my pills, you know. You
Yeah.
barely find it. So anyway, so these are Jewish coins, kind of the same line. You kind of get a. They didn't put any pictures or any faces and stuff on that. So there's just, I guess you would say, things related to the temple. So the Roman taxes supported the empire. Herod taxed people to support Herod, his projects. The temple tax is supported the religious leaders. There were income taxes, trade taxes, especially those coming from the east. And there were tax collectors at Jericho, especially because that was a port of entry. So everybody was going to get their money somewhere along the way.
Seems like they might have had more taxes than we did.
Well, and you forget that they also had the tithe. So that was another added thing. So there were numerous taxes that they had to deal with. It wasn't just a simple. And it's the same with us. If government would put the list of all the things that are taxed, we'd be surprised how many taxes we're paying. Unlike today, tax collectors were not well liked back then. I know we all love our tax collectors, right? We all agree on it. And they were seen as aiding Rome, and there was the money exchange again at the temple because they wouldn't allow foreign currency at the temple. That was a no-no. Though it's kind of interesting in the story where they came for Jesus, he asked for a coin and whose inscription is on it, and it was Caesar's. So why were the priests carrying Caesar's coin? So it's kind of a it just was a strange encounter there. Famous ones, Zacchaeus, Matthew, and the Pharisee and tax collector were some of the ones involved. Taxes were paid in cash. They were also paid in produce. They were paid in products not produced by farmers. It wasn't dependent upon the harvest. The bad harvest didn't change the cost of your taxes. Shipwrecks were not an excuse not to pay taxes. So if your ship sank at sea, guess what? You still had to pay the money. And of course, the customs and tariffs that I hear a lot about today is 1 to 5%. We're going to go. This is all stuff that we're going to look at that's new, in the sense that this has been going on only in for the most part, this century, so it's only 25 years. These are, they're sifting. This is how they sift stuff, and the reason for this, I'll explain in a minute. But this is what they do. They put dirt in a sifter, and they shake it, and whatever is left they look at. It could be stones, it could be bricks, it could be pottery, it could be coins, it could be jewelry. You never know what you're going to get out of it. And archaeologists do this everywhere, but they, in places where they are they make grids, and they go through the grids because they record. And this is a little bit different because of the events. There was an agreement between Israel and Jordan that there would be no construction on the Temple Mount or digging under the Dome of the Rock. And any rumors of that gets things really riled up. And the local Muslim ruler was in charge of all that. But between 1996 and 99, a Muslim group began a building project that moved 9,000 tons of dirt and dumped it in the Kidron Valley. And caused a number of problems, both politically and religiously. They finally got the project stopped, and then the IAA, which is Israeli Antiquity something, started processing and going through all the dirt. Hence, you see what the first picture was about. Numerous artifacts were destroyed, unfortunately. They dug, all this dirt is piled up, so they've lost context with all the things that were there. It caused, let's see, digging sites usually take years because the items found have to be logged. It costs and limited time to dig. And so all that is important to help date and put things in context, and it was lost in this dumping of all this dirt. And oftentimes new towns are built on top of old towns, so there's another issue there. Well, that'll come back a little bit later. But this is one of the things they found in that pile of dirt they were going through. An arrowhead from 10th century BC. So you meant to ask me about what an arrowhead looked like. Well, there's a kind of only about 3 inches. I don't know if that's a big one or not, but that's kind of what it looks like. Looked like this little stone. So that's one idea that we see there. These are seals, not coins. These are seals with writing on it from some type of official that, they put it on the wax and that type of thing. So this is from the time of Jeremiah. It had the name of Pashar, which is in Jeremiah 20 verse 1. Not sure if that's the same guy, but yes, it was. The dating seems to be around that time. More Jewish coins from the Jewish revolt. You can kind of see the flowers there on the right-hand side, and then some of the little scribbling writing on the left. So that came out of all this digging where they just dumped the dirt down the valley. So they're still going through that. You think 9,000 tons of dirt, that's a lot of stuff to go through. It's going to take really years and years and years to get all that gone through.
Going back to that picture where they were doing the sifting and stuff, all the archaeologists were around it. Are those from different disciplines? They were looking for specific things, maybe?
They were probably mostly volunteers that were helping, but they could be students, people who are interested, maybe amateur archaeologists going to learn how to do it.
I thought maybe some of them were looking specifically for pottery and some specifically for
I think
weapons.
I don't think they're looking specifically for something like that, but they are looking. And again, some people with more experience might see something that you or I might miss. So, or they might spot something quicker. I was watching a thing on Egyptian archaeology, and the guy just looked down and said, "Ooh," and he was right on it. But he had the experience to see something that other people may not have seen. Okay, we're going to talk about the city of David, and it's different from Jerusalem. This is a little bit of a map. It's not, it just kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. Mount Moriah is where the Western Wall is, the Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock, and then outside the Western Wall and down, it goes down, are these different places that are a rendition of what they think was being built or what it looked like back in the first century or in that time frame. And since then, all that is gone. All those palaces and all those buildings are gone, and they built on that. So there's housing there and everything else, and that's important to understand when we get to some a little further in here. So we're familiar with it, the old city or the Jerusalem. If you go to Jerusalem, you'll go to the old city. That's the popular place where the Western Wall is. You'll go, you of course see where the wall is. There's a tour that leads you into the tunnels, and I'll show you one picture of that. And then there's other things. If you're there at the right time, you go up and see the Dome of the Rock, the Muslim mosque on top, and you can walk around and see different things there. But this is outside that area. This is down. It's new. It just opened this year, if I understand right. They have a museum. They now have a bigger tour involved in it because of the work they've done, and we'll show you some of that. So it's exciting for people. Again, a little bit of rendition of it. This is the model that you can go see as well. They built a big model of Jerusalem. And the temple is at the top, and then this is the city of David. So you kind of get an idea of what's going on.
What is the Dome of the Rock? I've not heard of.
The Dome of the Rock is the Muslim thing on top, the gold dome thing on top. And next to it is the Jewish Western Wall or Wailing Wall. So it's so you have Jordan guards on one side and you have Israeli guards on the other side. It's an exciting place to be. As long as they're not shooting at each other, we're okay.
And you're in the middle.
Yeah, you can't just go anywhere. Like the women can't walk where the men go to the wall, and men can't go where the women go to the wall. And to get to the Dome of the Rock, you have to go through security, and there's a certain way to do it. So there's all kinds. And yet you can take a tour down to where they're allowed to do digging. The Israelis are doing digging and finding how far they can go down, and they've gone down several levels. And I'm not talking, maybe something like this, 3 or 4 times deep. So there are things they're looking for or digging. They found rooms and other things that they're not sure why they're there, but they're there. So this is in the city of David, so that'll be outside the walls of Jerusalem. An inscription of a synagogue. So around, it existed around 70 CE or AD, however you want to use it. So you kind of get, it's in Greek, but I find it interesting is that there's a synagogue right outside the wall, the temple area. But yeah, what can you say? That's a coin, that's the only picture I could find, a rare bronze coin in the final year of the Jewish revolt. Kind of get the size of it and a little thick. Some interesting discoveries nobody knew about, didn't realize were there. This is a ancient dam they found. 69 feet long, 39 feet high, 26 feet wide. No one knew it was there until they started digging. And this is what they found. And this is a recent discovery. This isn't something 50 or 60 years old. This is in the last few years they just found it. And so it relates to the Pool of Siloam and the Hezekiah's tunnel and all that. What it was doing, or again, there's just not enough information right now as to why it was there. And it kind of, this is one of the most fascinating things about it. The dam was built, they dated it in that 10-year period, and the reason is the twigs and branches they found in the mortar, they were able to date that and date when the dam was built. So it was built 800 BC. So it's 2,800 years old, over that. So it's kind of, it's again, an interesting thing. That's not always easy to do, but this one happened to be pretty easy. That's what, there's a Siloam inscription, was found in 1880. A kid walked into the tunnel because the archaeologist wasn't small enough to do that, and found this inscription and wrote the stuff down. He was a student, okay, so wrote the stuff down and brought it to him, and it's, we'll read what it says, but this is what the tunnel looks like. And Hezekiah built the tunnel from inside Jerusalem to down here to avoid the Assyrians getting water and to have water for themselves. So it was an interesting. The inscription, behold the tunnel. Now this is the matter of the tunnel. While the stone cutters were lifting the axe, one man toward his neighbor, and while they remained 3 cubits to be cut, the voice of a man could be heard, calling out to his neighbor, for there had been only its side deviation in the rock face, where it's supposed to meet up, on the right and on the left. And on the day when the tunnel was being cut out, the stone cutters struck each man in front of his neighbor, axe against axe. And the waters from the source flowed into the pool for that distance of 120 cubits. Now 100 cubits was the height over the head of the stone cutters. So that was the inscription that they met. Their ability to meet in the middle. It's like the Transcontinental Railroad. You want to eat meat right where both rails connect. Unlike the Spanish and the French, who didn't realize that the French used one gauge on their tracks and the Spanish used another gauge, and when they got to the meeting point, their tracks didn't fit. There's a nice long story about that. That's the text where it's described. So, all right, this is now this is going to take a little explanation. First thing, there's a pilgrim road. It's called the Pilgrim Road. In the first century, it was open. So that's the first thing you. It was built up. You walked up it. The sun shined, the rain, whatever. You would walk on that road. Since the first century, they have built houses. Over the years, it's all been filled in. Houses were built. No one knew this road was there until they dug out the Pool of Siloam, and then they began to realize there's something more there. But they wanted to do the work. But the problem was all the houses that were there. Well, they could start digging and the houses could fall down, but since mostly Arabs lived in those houses, that was going to be a problem. So they were stuck with, what are we going to do? They got their engineers together, and they decided that what they were going to do is, first thing, they were going to shore up all the houses. They were going to make them where they would not fall. They weren't built well at all. So what they decided to do, and they had to raise a lot of money, they shore up all these houses. That's the first thing they were going to do, so that the houses wouldn't fall down and no one would be mad. And so they did that, and that took time. And then they ended up digging along where the Pilgrim Road was, and they had to make a tunnel. So if you go there today, this is what it's cleaned up since then, but this is what you would walk through. This tunnel that is engineered to, you walk under all those houses, you walk up from the Pool of Siloam all the way to Jerusalem to the temple. And that's the road they built. So this is a little bit better picture when it's cleaned up. And when you see the steps there, if you're in this old city of Jerusalem, which is where the Temple Mount is, this is the way we walk. It's not wide. You can get a pickup truck, north-south, not across, just the width of a pickup truck with two seats and two people on each side, one person on each side, And that's how wide the road is. We're not talking about a major freeway here. It's not a wide thing in the city. So you're walking up this road, it's narrow when you're going up. And so that was all designed as they worked through the city of David. This is a much clearer one, obviously the ventilating systems and all that. So it took them a number of years to do this. So you could walk through, you can see the type of stone, it's the original stone. It's not on the walkway. It looks typical of what you would find in Jerusalem as you walked along. They also, interestingly, there's a drainage ditch underneath, big enough for people to hide in. So that's another thing they had to deal with. So there's all kinds of interesting things going on here. And we'll explain the purpose of it in a little bit. It's reinforced, I talked about the reinforcing and everything. This was used, the Pilgrim Way, the drainages were used to hide, people to hide from the Romans. It didn't take the Romans long to figure it out. And once they broke through, it was a slaughter. Let's see. The ancient drainage channel passes underneath the road. It was used as a hiding place. They found cooking pots, oil lamps, hundreds of bronze coins, and even a sword that belonged to a Roman soldier. So digging in they had to go in the mud and dig. They had to go clean it up. So Pool of Siloam, they're clearing it out now. This is where Jesus went. The John 5, the guy that couldn't get to the pool. Well, here was the pool. Go down the stairs, and it was meant for a cleansing area. Let me put this in here. Again, the temple up on the right top, and the arrow on the bottom is where the pool is. So you kind of get a picture of. And the Pilgrim Road goes along that area and leads up into the entrance into the temple. The reason for that road was that the pool was used for cleansing. So you've traveled to Jerusalem for a major festival, and you want to go to the temple, but you're unclean. So and it's not from dust, okay, but anyway, you've dealt with animals, you've dealt with all kinds of things. So now, how do I get clean? You go to the pool, have your washing, however they did it, baptized or whatever, and they come out. Well, now how do you get to the temple? Because if you went on the public road, you might bump into somebody that's unclean. So they built the Pilgrim Way to avoid that. So you have people coming out or down one side or the other, headed for the pool or headed out, and you have people at the pool going up, but they're going up on a separate road. It was a one-way road, only one way you can go. And then you get up to the temple, and you were allowed to go into the temple area. So it's an interesting little way of doing things, but that's how they avoided being unclean again until they offered their sacrifice. Now here's the pool, the tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel. You kind of get a picture. It's not a real huge area. Having been there, it's kind of hard to judge what it kind of looked. You can look at pictures, but anyway, this is sort of the first century version of it. I think the steps are probably a little too wide, but anyway, as people going to the pool and then headed up. So a lot of things on I'm pointing at my picture here, but a lot of things on the outside area where people would be coming in around that area. So I think I've explained that already. During the Feast of Tabernacles, they would even carry water up to the temple as a libation offering. Probably sang Psalms 120 to 134 on their way to the temple. So they walked up this pilgrim road, singing songs, and again, the archaeologists finding this, it was just a very exciting thing about looking at that road, building it under the housing development and all. So if you're an engineer and really want to see something, go to see this and look at the end. If you're obviously a biblical scholar or one interested in the Bible, you can see it for the other purposes. And then they did find a corner of the first century temple, by the way, up by the temple. So there were a lot of things discovered as they were excavating that road as they went along. There are layers of history in Jerusalem, as we know, and so there's many different artifacts from different periods of time. This is a seal of David found in, it's about 5th century, or found in the city of David, 5th century BC. You kind of get an idea of what that might have looked like. Just somewhere in the dirt or the mud.
Is that sitting on a mirror, or were there two?
It looks like it's sitting on a mirror.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just one. Just a little, and you can't, again, we're not, you take the seal, you do your thing on the wax, and then you go on to the next thing. This is a Bernice, Queen Bernice from Egypt, from the Ptolemy Empire. Seems to have been an important person, and you kind of get the idea that things, the amount of flow back and forth, the Ptolemies were probably more in control of Israel at this time than anybody else, and so that's the importance of it. It's the time frame when the Septuagint was put together. So somewhere there may have been impact or influence to bring Jewish scholars to Egypt to put that together. The Septuagint is the Greek version of the Old Testament. And so this time frame is the idea there. But apparently she had some influence since she has a picture on a coin. She was not king, or Pharaoh, I guess. She wasn't in control of Egypt, but she may have had a lot of impact on who was in charge. Okay, I mentioned the tunnels. If you go to Jerusalem and you go to the wall, to the left, if you're facing the wall to the left, there's a building there, and you can sign up for a tour. And I would recommend it. It's kind of, again, you go in, you start down, and they'll take you down low, and they'll take you what they call tunnels. Some of it's narrow, but not extreme. I got through no problem. So if you're close to Fogwick, it's not bad. Okay, there's no, you can get stuck or anything, so there's no problem there. And they show you different things, signs, what was here. The street, because you're walking on some of the old street, going along the temple wall. And they'll tell you a lot about different things. Most of all those blocks on top there are about 3 tons. Now remember, the temple was built, but all the blocks, all the block work was not done at the temple. It was done outside, away from the temple, and they had to bring it up to the temple. Now 3 tons, that's a lot of weight. This one in the middle there with the kind of spaces, the holes in there, that is 24 feet long, and it weighs 570 tons. One piece. How in the world did they get that first the way they wanted it, and then put it where they put it? And this is 1000 BC. Okay. This is not 1960. This is 1000 BC. How did they put that there? But then we asked the same thing with the pyramids and Babylon and a host of other things. How did these people do these things? And scholars come along and engineers and all, and they say, well, they did this or they did that. Recently, it was in Egypt. They think they found a dry riverbed that had water in it when the pyramids, some of the pyramids near the Kingdom Valley were built, and they used the river to move the stone. But that still doesn't explain how they got stone from the river to the pyramid, and then built the pyramid. And how did they know to put how did they get the rooms in? And again, we're in an area there, as I said, when we were there in 2019, 2020, we were there. When we took the tour, they said right after that they discovered an area with 3 small rooms in it underneath. So they still don't know. Well, they may know now, but they didn't know why those rooms were there. They had no idea what it was used for. Maybe a sleeping area or whatever. And we're not talking about, they had to clear it out and all. Pots and broken pieces, which is typical of archaeology, finding these things. This is another discovery, a royal seal coming from Jeremiah's time. Jeremiah seemed to be pretty popular, and you kind of get a picture of what the seal looked like. So whoever the official was would use that again. Seals were popular when they were sending out messages. I put these in here just to highlight something. Verse 33 there from Exodus 28 talks about the dress of the high priest or any of the priests. They would have blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and around the hem of the robe with golden bells between them. And the golden bells and the pomegranate leaves are to alternate around the hem of the robe. And same in Exodus 39, the bells and the pomegranates. So, have you ever thought about that? Bells, what the bells may look like? Well, there it is. This was discovered in the mud in one of the drainage areas on the Pilgrim Road or Pilgrim Way. It's a bell. It's unique. They've found others, but this one is unique. As the guy was just going along, he looked down and saw a little bit of shining. Reached down in the mud, cleaned it off, and found this. And this is the only one that still rings. It's the only bell that makes the noise. And so you can picture a priest walking through the streets or walking along the Pilgrim Way, however that may sound. Okay, we don't think about stuff like that, but in the first century that would have been a common thing. Oh, here comes a priest. You can hear him not a mile away, but you get the idea. You can hear him coming, and they're just making all kinds of noise. So I just found that to be really interesting, that you can find this little thing, and that's what makes archaeologists excited. It's not finding something necessarily like Indiana Jones. It's finding something like this and like, wow, this is so cool. That's what they get real excited about. Here is, how would you like a piece of rock that's a financial receipt? Just a small piece of rock they scribbled on there, paid in full or whatever it might be, and handed it to you. You're like, what am I going to do with a piece of rock with this on? But it shows you paid for whatever you're buying. And so this was a 2,000-year-old Hebrew inscription on it. It was, let's see, found in you can read it. It was just a small fragment of a stone tablet bearing the inscription that was produced for financial purposes. So you wrote on whatever you could find. Sometimes it was broken pottery. That's why broken pottery is important. Sometimes it was just a piece of rock. Running out of that, finally running down. This is a coin, and it's got a hole in it. It wasn't meant to use for payment of things. It was like to wear around your neck, and it does relate to the rebellion of 70 AD. So they could wear it, just a souvenir, I guess, along that idea. All right, the next thing is, I just found this a couple days ago. This is an extremely recent discovery. This was found in Jerusalem, and it was found related to the King Hezekiah. So the Pilgrim Way, and this Pool of Siloam and all that, all in Hezekiah's day. And this is just that you can see the size of it, and that's an inscription from Assyria to Hezekiah or to Israel, saying, you owe me money, when are you going to pay? That's sort of the idea. Pay up. Time to pay up, or we're coming.
Collections.
Come to collect, you know. It's the Syrian mafia, whatever you want to call it. That's what was going to happen, and that's what this is. It was just discovered not too long ago, and just revealed. I was just going through one of my sites, and this popped up, and said, "Oh wow!" So I went looking and see if I could get a better picture, but most of the time somebody's holding it, or and size-wise, so this is the best I came up with, size-wise, concerning that. So it's pretty fascinating when you look at all these things. Those are 3 books that I was looking at. The last one, the bottom one, When the Stones Speak, is a water. I got a lot of the information about the city of David, because this guy was one of the movers and shakers of getting the job done and going in and exploring and finding things. It took them a while, a lot of crawling around, a lot of digging, opening up things. Again, they found the corner of the first century, of Solomon's temple, the bottom of, and so they were really excited about digging there in that. All of that had been covered over the centuries, and they finally found it. But anyway, that book is current. The others are, the first one is just got a lot of details if you're interested in different things like shepherds and how people lived in the first century. It deals with people in the parables, but it just basically deals with what life was like. And the second one was the basis for the class, but a lot of her stuff came from Egypt. So anybody want to ask any questions or comments?
That last little fragment that they found,
Okay.
were they able to deduce from,
It's got cuneiform writing on it.
what's that?
That's Assyrian
Oh,
type, different, it's different hieroglyphs. It's more like little arrows and things like that. So it's a specific form of writing.
But they were able to
They're able to
deduce
read
from
it,
that, from that.
way back somewhere in the late 1800s, an archaeologist found a wall up on a rock area. He looked up and saw all these inscriptions. Well, he came to find out that there were 3 different languages up there. They already knew one of the languages. So the assumption was everything is parallel. So they have one interpretation, now they can work on the other 2. And so he got a shepherd boy or whatever. He said, I'm going to put a ladder down on that little shelf down there, and you're going to climb down there, and you're going to start copying every line. And up and down he went. no road,
Mm.
okay, just drop, couple hundred yard, 100 feet drop, you know. And, you know, and this kid did this, up and down, up and down, up and down. Anybody copied the whole thing. And they were able then to read languages they hadn't read before. So, people been reading the Assyrians with no problem. But when they discovered it, they immediately recognized what it was. And then you just get somebody in there and say, what does it say? And, oh yeah, this is what it says. And again, it was a threat. It was a threat to Israel to pay up or die, type of thing. So anyway, if you go to Jerusalem again, you may not hear about, hopefully you'll hear about the city of David. So there's, again, two areas. The old city, where the western wall is, or the Wailing Wall. Fun to go to, look at, explore, interesting walking down the streets. That's also where the churches are and the different quarters. And then, but go to go to the city of David. That's a different area. Walk down there, or however you get down there, and go. They have a museum. They have a guided tour. It does cost money, but you go through it and visit all the different things they found. I've only highlighted a few things. They have got tons of stuff they have found that you can look at, and just pretty fascinating. But if you're an engineer, you get to see how they built. It was a tunnel. Again, I'll go back to some of that. I can find it here. There. That's an engineering feat. You know, I mean, it wasn't that way in the first century. This is keep the houses from falling down. But you can walk along that and see all the different things along the way. And you'll see, just like you see in Jerusalem, in the old city, little places where apparently people set up little market stands. They didn't go in deep into the walls. They do today, but they go in just enough where you can put your goods, and then you're not blocking the road, let's put it that way. And you go along and buy stuff as you went on, or haggle with stuff, however you want to do it. So you kind of get to see that in this walk as well, which is kind of interesting. Being supposedly we're going to keep ourselves clean and all this, but.
And the pool of Siloam was a lot larger than I thought it might be. Or in that one picture.
Yeah, what is that this way?
The rendering?
Yeah, but,
Yeah. Okay.
that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it looks bigger. I'm not sure if that's exaggerated or not. I'm not quite sure. Having not been there, it's hard to say, because you see that stepway, but there's a dam. That dam they found may have had a role in how much water was in there. And it's just not shown yet, because that's a very recent discovery. They were just digging and said, what is this? Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, you know. And they uncovered it and said, oh, there's a dam here. What's it doing here? You know, so a lot of the stuff that's discovered then, you don't always get, it doesn't always catch up immediately. It takes time. People have to look at it, they have to examine it, they have to decide what it kind of meant. So that may have been the idea that they didn't realize there was a dam holding the water, which would make sense then, because the water would come in from up in the old city area and then would build up in that area. So again, our engineering marvels of the ancient world, just amazing what they could do. You could build a city, you could build a waterway to protect yourself from running out of water, and then hide it from people. You look at the destruction of Jerusalem in 70, and you have to wonder, are you sure? Obviously, I don't think the Romans would have been on that Pilgrim Way, because they're Gentiles, so they probably ignored it, and maybe didn't realize there were drainage areas underneath, but it didn't take them long to figure it out. They had their own marvels of building things. We didn't talk about Masada that much, but they built their siege, they built a whole mound up to it so you bring your siege engines up and batter the walls. And so there was a movie with Peter O'Toole way back, and it was a made-for-TV movie called Masada. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's a fun movie. It was dealing with the Roman, fun movie in a sense. It was a good movie. Indication of the culture and things like that. So it was well done. And again, this is probably 50 years old or 40 years old, so it may not be up to our standards of modern movie technology, but it does show some of the difficulties they had and how they had to spend time building this thing out in the middle of nowhere. And so wood was hard to find. Romans just built their stuff as they went. They didn't drag it along with them. For the most part, there was no road down there, so they couldn't just bring anything with them. They had to build it with what they had. But between Herod building the Masada and the Romans attacking it, it's an interesting story. But I think that's the way Jerusalem would be, or the pyramids, or Babylon, and the things they find. Even Caesarea, another place, was a coastal. They're finding more stuff about that. Caesarea is built by Herod. It was amazing. It was a port city built where no port city could exist, but he made a port city out of it, and it apparently was pretty fancy until it was destroyed by something. You're thinking a tsunami, but it's hard to say. Any comments or questions? Well, I sort of gauge my time.
You know, I hadn't really thought about having a pilgrimage road after they cleanse themselves in the pool.
Yeah,
You know,
it's,
a one-way road up to the temple.
yeah, you want to, how do you get into the temple? You know, how would you get into the temple? So,
Without bumping
without being
elbows with
unconscious,
someone that's.
yeah. So, and again, I don't think it was as wide as this little display shows. Those roads are not, that's the thing that surprised me walking through Jerusalem. So these roads are, you could get, like I said, a pickup, and you could stand people on each side, one person on each side, and that's the width of the road. If you go out there and stand next to a pickup, that's not a wide road. Just people four across, and if you have traffic coming both ways, it was hard to get through sometimes with all the people coming down. And up the steps, and I show the steps there, maybe the other way, I forget what those types of, that's all over the place. These steps going up, and that's part of that's not something they did in 10 years ago. That's something they did 2,000 years ago. And so you're constantly watching where you're walking. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming. Look a little bit about what the world looks like in the first century, some discoveries and all. I find it interesting anyway. Let's have a word of prayer. Thank you, Father, for our time together. Thank you for your blessings. And we're thankful that we can look at Scripture, and we can look at the ability that you've given people to build things and to display things, and those who have the wisdom to put it all together. Thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name, amen.
When you went up to the temple, would that be going up to pay your taxes and stuff?
Now, that's worship. It would be offering sacrifices. Day of Atonement.
So by the time you went to the pool, before you went to the pool, you would
Yeah.
have paid your tax?
Yeah, you had to pay, if you had anything but Jewish money, you would have to
Because
exchange
I
it.
was saying if it's the other way around, you'd expect the money changers to been on that road. instead of being in the temple.
Yeah, I don't think they would let them in there. You may go to the temple first and then have to go down and get cleansed and come back.
Alright,
You know, I'm not, some of those details aren't all worked out yet. I'm sure somebody come along and explain a little better, or someone has and I don't know where it is. 'Cause, some of that's, Leviticus stuff, and I'm still reading a lot of Leviticus stuff, so, it's kinda interesting. I don't know how they did it in the temple area, the tabernacle time in the temple, how they worked out all these details, but there were obviously a lot of pools in Jerusalem, so.
okay.
There's still some donuts out there if you're